Filling is called fault gouge, the soft foundation of these tall walls.
What am I grabbing?
Just grab an end.
Oh my gosh. Woo. Do I get fined for that?
No, you won't. No, you won't.
A little bit smaller. Wow. It is like dried old concrete.
There hasn't been a major quake here in 300 years, and one.
Remember I told you we had nothing to worry about over there if we had an earthquake?
It's time
Here we gotta worry
right now, guys.
Inside the Horseshoe Slot Canyon, we find towering walls smoothed by wind and water, and eroded pockets large enough to sit in.
I gotcha.
We can't say with 100% certainty that this is where the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate meet, but we can pretend that I'm holding up these two guys and preventing the next big one.
The fault zone isn't all rocks and dust. It also has a palm oasis, packed with California fan palms.
It's almost like a jungle here. Right in the middle of the desert, there's water coming right up out of the ground.
This entire desert, green and gray, sees 200 to 300 quakes a week, most of them too small to feel. And since the San Andreas doesn't run through Arizona, you'll have to cross the border to really feel things shake.
Well, we were having almost 800 in California and Nevada.
Right, when everything falls off.
True.
There are several faults that run through Arizona. As for the recent earthquakes that we've had here, geologists still aren't sure which fault they came from. But the closest is the Horseshoe Fault, which is 20.
Margot Robbie and Jim Jeffries, plus music by Flo Rida. Kimmel later tonight.
In just 30 seconds on ABC 15 at 10, a stretch of road turns deadly when two cars collide. Plus, a man barely escapes after the serial shooter opens fire on his car. Next.
He's been turned down.
Remodels.
Wells News at 10 with Mark, Vanessa, Karibe, and Coop starts now.
Developing now, the death toll climbing after a truck slams into a crowd celebrating Bastille Day.
A week after a Valley protest turned violent, police gearing up for 3 more tomorrow.
Did NASA cut a live feed of a UFO?
12 News at 10, tracking the big picture for you tonight.
Our teams spread all across the valley.
Up first, William Pitts and the search for a serial killer.
Tonight, police have a new sketch of the guy.
Kevin is tracking the 24/7 operation.
And the steps police are taking to catch the killer.
Station on Ken, tracking Donald Trump's VP pick.
But we won't see the official announcement tomorrow.
Bram Resnick with the new police chief.
She tells us
in one of those vehicles. 3 other people were sent to the hospital. We're not sure exactly what condition they are in tonight, but we are checking. 2 vehicles involved in this, again, truck and a car. Police and fire crews taking pictures, going through the evidence to find out exactly what caused this deadly accident. But back out here live, you can see a lot of traffic trouble for people in this area of Litchfield and Indian School. Police tell us they do plan to be investigating here for several more hours, so try to avoid this area if you can. But again, one 58-year-old woman was killed in this 2-car crash in Goodyear. Back to you.
It's sickening, it's saddening, and it's happened again. What most are calling another terror attack at this hour. The death toll now up to at least 80 tonight in France. A truck driver mowing down people on a crowded street before eventually being killed out there. One report saying some
and interpreting things like that. Phoenix, I don't feel too scared, but of course, obviously, there's always the chance.
Yeah.
So just on guard, but
5,800 miles is the distance that separates Phoenix from Nice. But in light of the recent tragedy, it's felt much closer to home.
It's really strange. Everything seems to be kicking off over there at the moment. There's been a lot that's gone on in the last 12 months. It's just getting worse and worse.
Travelers at Sky Harbor Airport say they're aware as can be. But in this day and age of terror attacks, there's a feeling of helplessness.
I am really concerned, when I do keep myself up to date and make sure that I'm
updated of all the happenings. So
it's part of the life. I mean, everywhere you go, there's something happening.
And even though we've seen attacks in airports before, like Brussels and Istanbul, for some, they say they feel safer at airports because of the heightened security.
I have seen security, but I guess it's for the better. So, you have to live with that, I guess.
I think security in airports now is fantastic. So I don't really get worried in especially American airports.
Adding that keeping up on current events as well as being alert at all times is the best way to protect yourself.
Always I do check news and keep myself up to date just to make sure I plan my travels accordingly with that. Yeah.
And it's become a catchphrase we hear all the time. If you see something, say something. But these days, it could not be more vital to do just that inside and outside of airports. Reporting live, Marcy Jones, Fox 10 News.
Marcy, thank you, and we'll continue to update you on the situation in France as we get new developments. Meantime, we're
been standing out for a long time.
The plan for last week's protest was torn up as the crowds marched toward I-10, a surprise that brought out the cavalry. So what is really the plan for the sit-in so close to their homes? We really couldn't say. I have confirmed that there are plans for an armed counter-protest here tomorrow. Now, the organizer of the protest itself is calling for everything to be peaceful. That organizer, Jarrett Maupin, is advocating for a new 12-point plan that has just been released as part of this protest tomorrow. That plan, I shared that on my Facebook page.
And that protest, John, already forcing businesses to take action in the area. We talked with one employee who says his boss is shutting down the office tomorrow.
We got an email that said stay home and work from home.
Part of town. Police say she too had been shot to death. June 3rd, 9:50 p.m. Horacio de Jesus Pena gunned down outside his home near 67th Avenue in Osborne. June 10th, 9:30 p.m. 19-year-old Manuel Castro Garcia killed near 65th Avenue and Coronado. And then June 12th, 2:35 a.m. Police say the suspect or suspects opened fire on an unoccupied vehicle near 67th Avenue and Camelback. And then 20 minutes later, 63rd Avenue and Palm Lane, Angela Linner, Stephanie Ellis, and Stephanie's 12-year-old daughter, Malia, all inside a car just listening to music when they were gunned down in their driveway. And tonight, Danielle Miller spoke with the sister of Crystal White, that fourth victim we just told you about, and you can only imagine what she's going through. Danielle?
Troy White's sister tells us that she believes Crystal was actually going to the store for an elderly man who she has been helping to take care of when she was shot and killed. She tells us tonight that there's still more questions than answers into exactly what happened to her sister.
I may start saying, sis, you ready for some coffee? Or did you make some coffee?
Sylvia White talking about some of her favorite memories of her sister, 55-year-old Crystal White.
She was a sweetheart. She helps people.
One man unknowingly slipped out of his truck and away from that serial killer with just seconds to spare.
June 12th was a very busy night for the Phoenix serial killer. His night of terror started at 63rd Avenue in Camelback around 2:35 in the morning. The mystery killer shot up this truck.
My cousin actually had just gotten out of the truck because he had been sleeping in there.
The woman we interviewed did not want to be identified because the killer is still out there. But she tells us just minutes before the shots went off, her cousin got out of the truck and came back inside.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking just knowing that, somebody was out here trying to cause harm.
25 minutes later, he gunned down a mother and her child and a friend who were just sitting in the car in front of this home near 63rd Avenue in McDowell. Stephanie Ellis was shot 7 times. Out of all 8 shootings, this truck with 5 bullets lodged inside was the only one where someone wasn't in the car, which makes you wonder why the shooter targeted it.
It kind of crossed our minds. Maybe he had already, came in front of the house and saw my cousin sleeping in there and then maybe decided to come back thinking he maybe was still in there, but thank God, he had already gotten out.
And when you look at a breakdown of all the shootings that have happened so far, we have learned that they're happening every single night of the week except for Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and all these shootings are happening after 9. Back to you, Steve.
Thanks so much, Navina. And while police scramble to get a physical description of the serial killer, one FBI profiler offering an eerie look into his mind. He says the killer likely has some ties to Maryvale and very much likely has a routine after every attack.
Many of these kind of shooters in the past miss work the next day. They change their appearance. They talk about these events a little too much because they're so excited about them.
Garrett also says the serial killer is probably obsessed with media coverage, saving articles and watching himself on the news.
A tough setback tonight for victims of a past Phoenix serial killer. Mark Godot, dubbed the Baseline Killer, was sentenced to death in 2011. And new at 10, we're learning rape victims and families of those killed by Godot just had their lawsuit against the Phoenix Police Department tossed out. That's according to the Arizona Daily Star. They argued police should have immediately done a DNA test on evidence they had from an earlier sex assault victim. Had they done so, they claim, cops would have caught Godot sooner and saved a number of lives. But a state appeals court disagreed with that, saying at that time there was no evidence of a serial killer nor rapist.
It's a changing of the guard. I had the opportunity today to sit down with Jerry Williams, who come October will be the new chief of Phoenix Police. It's a dream job for her, but it comes at a trying time.
There to be the chief in Oxnard, California, but she said the plan was always for her to come back, just like she has. And now she wants to bring Phoenix police closer together with the community.
I think the beauty of me being who I am is that I'm able to stand in that gap between law enforcement and people of color, law enforcement and mothers, law enforcement and women, law enforcement and, I mean, you name it, and can be able to really understand both sides of that equation.
Williams is
zigzagging at a high speed, running people down. Police later killed the truck driver. Now, this comes just 8 months after the ISIS attack on Paris that killed 120. A state of emergency is in effect tonight. A woman in Queen Creek who's from Lyon, France, is getting calls from friends back home.
Everything stopped. As soon as you hear that 80 people, innocent victims, died watching the fireworks, everything stops.
President Obama is offering French officials any assistance that they may need to investigate this latest attack and bring those responsible to justice.
Donald Trump will not be announcing his vice presidential selection tomorrow. The presumptive nominee tweeted out tonight that he's postponing the planned
record, but still about 5 degrees above average, and it marked our 19th day this year at one.
Your low fare now at Southwest.
Take a look at your 7-day forecast. How much of this